Mark Lowcock is the Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs. He is on a mission to North Korea on behalf of the United Nations to review the humanitarian situation. My colleague Adnan Nawaz spoke to him earlier. He began by asking him about the purpose of his trip to North Korea.
Well, it's 7 years since the UN's Emergency Relief Coordinator has visited the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. So I wanted to come and assess for myself the humanitarian situation here, see the work of UN agencies, reducing people's suffering, saving lives, and talk to the authorities about what more we may be able to do to collaborate on.
You mentioned the phrase brutal suffering there. The outside world hears stories of malnutrition, of such severe electricity shortages that when you look at the satellite picture of North Korea at night, of the Korean Peninsula, you practically can't see North Korea, and you know full well that the country doesn't have enough electricity to be able to light every town at nighttime. There are also those stories of labor camps where people have escaped from there and told the outside world that they're forced to hunt and scavenge for vermin, for cockroaches, all of those kind of things. Do you think there's any chance that you might see it?
Well, I've been able to travel around a little bit in the country. I went to the southwest, just towards the border with Korea yesterday, spent the day visiting farms and nurseries and kindergartens and hospitals. And what I saw was a significant malnutrition problem. About 20% of children are stunted, which is an indicator of malnutrition. Half the children in rural areas are having to drink contaminated water. But equally, what I saw is evidence of progress in tackling those problems. So the stunting rate has come down from 30% to 20% over the last 6 or 7 years. And UN agencies are doing effective work, which we're able to monitor well and get good data on. For example, to provide more drugs, more therapeutic foods, to help deal with issues of food insecurity and so on. So we have an appeal this year of $111 million to meet these needs, saving lives, reducing suffering. And my conclusion is that money is being well spent. We just need to be able to raise more of it. So far, we've only raised 10% or so of the money we need for this year.
This assistance that you're talking about, is it what you're offering or what you've been asked for by Pyongyang?
The $111 million is our assessment of what we in the UN need to deliver the assistance that would save lives and reduce suffering, particularly in the areas of malnutrition, water and sanitation, and crucial life-saving drugs. I went yesterday to a hospital which has 140 patients needing treatment for tuberculosis. Unfortunately, at the moment, they only have drugs for 40 of those people. So because our appeal is only 10% funded, the crucial thing, the biggest thing we need is more money to save more lives.
Mark, it's about 10 years ago, an international TV channel did a documentary in North Korea. There are documented cases of soldiers going into hospitals and ripping newborn babies from their mother's arms and killing those babies in front of that mother because that mother's family has said something or done something to displease the regime. Is any of the assistance that you're giving or might give in the future tied in any way to human rights in North Korea?
What the UN does here through our emergency assistance programs is bring into the country things like TB drugs, things like therapeutic foods, things like vitamin supplements, things like other emergency medical supplies. We have better access than we used to have around the country. My colleagues in the UN World Food Programme have made 1,800 visits in the last year or so to places that we're providing assistance to. My colleagues in the UN Children's Agency have visited hospitals and facilities in more than 100 counties. So I do think that access is improving and data on the needs are improving, and that we can reduce people's suffering here.
Is the invitation for you to be there, do you think, a sign of change?
Well, I had a very constructive and interesting meeting today with the president of the Presidium, the National Assembly, who plays the sort of role of the head of state in this country, who emphasized to me in some detail the importance that the authorities here put on the talks on stability and reconciliation, and the importance of the agreements reached in the series of recent summits with President Trump and the two very high-level meetings with the South Koreans, the Republic of Korea. And those talks were described to me as effectively a new beginning and a very central part of what the government in this country wants to see happening. They also want to put a big emphasis on growing their own economy and meeting more of the needs of their own people. But while those things happen, there remains a humanitarian imperative, and the authorities have been clear to me that they want to collaborate more with the UN in meeting that imperative.
Mark, we really, as I said before, appreciate it. It's really very instructive to hear your experience in North Korea. Thanks very much indeed.